Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Joining us in this episode is Joshua Riffe. Being an unintentional entrepreneur, treat time as your currency, and one cool way to scale a business when you are your brand.
Josh is currently the Chief Fun Officer and founder of Financial Services and JoshuaRiffe.com. Joshua is known for his speaking and programs for personal development, productivity, customer service and presentation, and his public speaking expertise. While building his coaching and training business, he is focused on the scalability of a coaching practice and its inherent challenges when you are your brand. As a result, Joshua has also created a new arm of financial services which creates and designs e-learning and intranet sites for companies and people to drive staff engagement and also to monetize their own content. While his speaking engagements have taken him literally around the world, Joshua is proud to call Newcastle home with his wife Rebecca and his little boy Jude. Hi Josh, thank you ever so much for coming in to see us today. So, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Do I have to?
Yes, please.
Oh, right. That's part of the whole deal here. Of course. Lovely to see you. Thanks for inviting me in. I am honored to be on your podcast. So what brings me in today? Clearly from my accent, you can tell that I'm a local lad from the local area, Highwayman, YI pet. I am from the Northeast, but from the Northeast of the U.S. So I grew up outside of Philadelphia and New York. Weekends in New York, weekdays in Philly, two parents thing going on. And I'm here because I'm an entrepreneur by mistake. I'm basically an unintentional entrepreneur. I spent a fair bit of time around a lot of people the last few years learning about passions and why people got into businesses and how to be a great entrepreneur and all the books and stuff. And the truth of the matter is I don't really find that I fit into many of those categories because if I had somebody willing to pay me $300,000 a year to do a job, I would probably do it. But what happened is, of course, I didn't really find a niche for myself in somebody else's job role. And when I got here to Newcastle, my previous experiences, my previous lifestyle, the whole thing just didn't fit into any particular box or label. So I kind of created one for myself. I got into the genre of personal development, which, is delivered traditionally through coaching, workshops, speaking, seminars, all that kind of stuff. I am absolutely not the only one that delivers their product that way. But I got into the topics of it based on about a 20 to 25 year career working in corporates with teams of people. And as a senior manager, senior leader in these corporates, luckily I worked for organizations that spent money on me. And they sent me off to probably hundreds of hours of training courses and workshops, and some of them were awesome. And some of them were like, oh my gosh, let me poke myself in the eye to stay awake, and other ones you'd go and by the end you're holding hands crying and telling your story. We're best friends forever. Everybody stay in touch. We haven't, by the way. But in the going to all those courses, I got really interested not just in how to deliver really cool information and how to keep teams of people engaged, but also the topics of personal development. I think in our Western societies, in my meager opinion, there's this weird stigma or idea that we're supposed to silo our experiences. This is work and that's home and this is, and those two we're supposed to find a balance between them. And I get it. I understand why that comes about, but I think it's just baloney. Whether you're at work or whether you're at home, the common denominator is you. So if you don't have yourself in order emotionally, mentally, or skill-wise, for example, if you have a rough day at work, there's very little chance that you're not taking that home to your family. And if you wake up and have a big spat with your partner, there's little chance you're not going to come to work and bring that with you and then take it out on some person who doesn't probably deserve it. So the concept of personal development got me going. And I found myself with some product around the ideas of productivity and procrastination and emotional management. But it tapped into a real passion of mine in that speaking and performing. My whole life, it's really been about being on stage or performing. And I pursued roles as a younger person that allowed me to do that. And I discovered that I just loved being on stage. Originally, I thought it was about becoming an actor or becoming somebody famous, But when I discovered the idea of you could be a host, you could be an MC or a compere, and just be yourself and get paid, I was like, sign me up.
Isn't there a story that you tell about a talent show when you were
Oh,
younger?
yeah. So, like my passion for being on stage, I didn't know I had one until I was quite young. I'd grown up outside in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And my career actually as a compere began with disappointment. I was in 5th grade, or grade 5, as you say here, but I was in the 5th grade, which just makes me about 9 years old at that time. And I was not permitted to be in the school's annual talent show. I wasn't allowed to be in it. They wouldn't let me participate. And I was really, really upset because I didn't understand why I was being singled like that. I didn't find out till later. I even called my mom really upset. They won't let me be in the show. I'm not allowed to be in the thing. And she was like, well, I don't understand, Josh. What are you doing? They want me to be the MC. What? And I had to explain that they, instead, rather that I would be the compere, the MC of the event, the master of ceremonies, I probably would have been excited had I had any idea what that meant. So anyway, the show happened, and I just kind of found the rhythm. I mean, there I was, a little 9-year-old kid, and I'm told that it was good, or I'm told that I really found a flow or my element. And from that point on, just loved being in front of people. I think there's a fair bit of ego or, attention seeking in that as well. Probably. I mean, my therapist would have a field day. But that led on to the idea that I love to be on stage or speaking. And that went on to lead to a career on cruise ships as a host, as a compere, a cruise director, a director of entertainment for a long time. And the aspect of the job of the performance was awesome. It allowed me to feed my ego. It allowed me to be on stage all the time, every night in front of thousands of people every week, introducing and hosting amazing shows. And it was great. It really fed that part of my needs. And I took that with me everywhere I went. And when I finally translated that into land much later, I was surprised to find that a lot of people that have seminars or training they don't all love to speak. They don't all really enjoy public speaking. I just didn't understand that at first because I had a bit of a natural enjoyment of it. I'm not saying I was always great at it, but I just enjoyed doing it. And I think when you are in front of a group of people, whether it's on a stage in front of thousands of people or in front of a room of 30 delegates at a workshop, if you're uncomfortable or if you look like you're not enjoying it, it comes across real clearly. And if you're enjoying it, it's a lot easier to blag. So the story of becoming a compere, that theme of speaking and being in front of people always permeated everything I did. But when I ended up getting into these large corporates, the training and the managing of people was the other side of working on cruise ships. It was managing various managers and teams of dancers and hosts and activities people, real, not temperamental people. And learning how to manage folks and learning how to be a leader at a young age. And combining those two, I found really, really interesting. So when I arrived in Newcastle, I just thought, well, what do I believe I'm good at? And how do I make a career or a job out of that? So the reluctant entrepreneur wasn't like, the job I wanted didn't exist. So I had to kind of make a conglomeration and start delivering it. And I found the piece of my soul that needed to be nourished was doing so in the form of delivering workshops and these fun procrastination seminars and things like that. And although I'm not on stage with a bunch of dancers and singers and lights and lasers, I still get that fix of performance. And while doing it, the topics that I'm discussing genuinely help people. People have my goal of these seminars and my workshops is to help people have little aha moments or light bulb moments, which is the key behind coaching, really.
And if they are enjoying themselves and having fun,
Yeah.
they're going to learn better, aren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, not only are they going to learn better, but they retain more.
Yeah.
If you go to a workshop that's boring as sin.
Time management.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. You go there and if it's boring, the chance of what you're going to retain is they're quite low. But if it's entertaining and fun, you will remember not just the speaker or who it was, but you'll remember some nuggets from that workshop, potentially for your whole life. So it's actually, I think, the responsibility of a presenter to be engaging and entertaining and somewhat fun to drive home the longevity of what you're trying to tell them, show them, So, yeah.
There was, as a side note, a few weeks back, I was looking on my bookshelf. I thought, right, what can I read next? And then I saw this book. It was called something like Overcoming Procrastination. And I still haven't read it.
I've got a video of Josh doing his procrastination thing, so I'll send you that.
Yeah.
So and we talked about procrastination, and that's first where obviously I got to see you present, Josh.
Right.
And procrastination is such an interesting subject. I mean, I find I'm particularly good at it.
We all got to be good at something, James.
Why not
so
start
kudos
with
to
procrastination?
you. Well done.
How would you? So you obviously present to a group. That's how we met. How do you describe procrastination? What's it? What is it? What is it about?
I think that's a really important way to begin. I mean, people bring with them the stigmas and their assumptions of what stuff means or how we're supposed to regard a topic. The reason that seminar you saw is about procrastination is it's generic enough that anybody can connect to it. Okay, it's not so specific that only a small group of people. I mean, ideally, the seminars I do, they're to get me out there in front of people so I can have more meaningful conversations. But procrastination, to me, it's challenging because the seminars aren't designed to help you overcome procrastination or help you stop procrastinating. In the idea of where is your time best spent, understanding why you're doing it helps you begin that journey of overcoming it before it starts. Procrastination is a lot of things. There's the obvious one where you just meet people and you think, they're just lazy gits, lazy, and I don't know if that's really procrastination or they just don't want to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I talk about procrastination, I don't mean, I'm putting off, cleaning the garage or, that's just a thing that we have to do.
No, we don't.
Taking the rubbish out or whatever. I mean more procrastination. The assumption that I make is that I'm talking in front of people that already aren't afraid of work. They're not afraid of graft. They're not afraid of doing the stuff. But there's this weird illogical side of things where I know what to do. I know exactly what I need to do to achieve that thing that I want to achieve, but yet I find myself putting it off or cleaning the house or doing something else.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really make sense. And I think it doesn't make sense because we're looking at it from a funny angle. Procrastination is the result, right? If you're procrastinating, something's already happened to make you do it. So in my opinion, if you think of it like an investment of time or if it was money, where's the best use of that? Where are you going to get the best bang for your buck, so to speak, of stopping the procrastination? It's like emotions. Talk to anybody that works in the field of that stuff. The emotion that you feel is the result of something. If you ever tried to unfeel something you're feeling, it's next to impossible. And also, I think, a waste of time. If you don't like the emotion you're feeling, go back and figure out what's causing that, and then affect that cause. Because the emotion, once you feel it, it's too late. You're already feeling it. Procrastination is like that too. By the time you're procrastinating, you're doing it. Next time, just think about what's causing it. And sometimes it's something as simple as, not having a plan or not having a really powerful goal or things that you can kind of handle yourself. But many times people are procrastinating because they've got like mind monkeys. They've got these stories they tell themselves in their heads that they've been telling themselves for quite a long time that really inhibit them from doing or achieving or being whoever they want to be. Sometimes, though, procrastination also, if you don't pay attention, procrastination is kind of like a stress reliever. Even we don't look at it like that because procrastination is like it's a bad thing, right? We shouldn't do it. I'm really good at it. We make a joke, But at the same time, there's a big movement on wellness, well-being, and mental health. And here's the basic truth that, if you don't give your mind and your body what it needs on a regular basis, it will do it for you. If you burn the candle at both ends and work hard all the time and you don't give yourself a break and you don't get up and walk around, eventually you'll get sick and you'll be out for 2 weeks or a month or whatever the case may be. We know that stress is a part of everyday life. And we know if it builds up and we don't find a way of relieving that stress, we have a panic attack or we have an anxiety attack or we all know this. So it doesn't make any sense to me why we don't build in a daily way of relieving that stress, whatever it is for you, meditation or going for a walk or going to the gym. By not doing that, you're ignoring the fact that something's coming. So when you ignore that, your body will also go, I'm going to put an idea in your head that you want to go watch Star Trek rather than finish that project. Sometimes procrastination is your brain and mind's way of making you relieve some stress. Especially when you find yourself, it doesn't make sense. I've got so much to do. I can't believe, I've been doing, the dishes for the last hour and you need to do it.
I call that procrasticleaning.
I love that. Procrastinating. Yeah, it really is. But you're sitting there and you're like, well, but why do I want to go do something else? Your body takes over, your mind takes over and makes you want to go do something else. So you don't freaking explode, So, I mean, it's a long-winded answer to your question, but procrastination, I think it's key to understand why you're doing it. If you don't like the fact that you're doing it, figure out your reason why you're doing it in one way or another, either by reading a book, taking a course, talking to a person who knows more about it, whatever, and do something about it, because we know stress is coming every day. We know that procrastination is just another behavior we engage in. And if we don't like it, then we have to do something about it. Otherwise don't be shocked when you stay stressed all the time.
And you talk about this life-work balance. Do you see anything different culturally from being in the States, from being in the UK, from being on the cruise liners with lots of different nationalities? Do you see any difference?
Of course. I mean, I wouldn't call myself an expert on cultural work habits,
from your experience,
but just from seeing people. I mean, ingrained in our cultures, we have a different aspect on what work ethic is about, or the welfare society versus even here in England, it's there's a big discussions of the NHS. Is it good? Is it bad? Is coming from the States, we don't have the NHS, and coming from the States, if you have a regular normal type job, you're lucky if you get 2 weeks off a year. And in order to gain more time, you have to work more to add to your bank. And, even when you have a child in the States, it's the norm is 6 to 12 weeks off from maternity. And any mom or dad, I mean, imagine having to go back to work right away. It's hard, it's not easy. Those differences, but I think it falls under the same umbrella of Western society. We just have this weird, it's like a mythical unicorn, this work-life balance. Is it a real thing, or is it just this weird aspirational thing we think we're supposed to go for? I try to look at it from a different perspective. You're the same at work or at home. You're the same person. And sadly, we sometimes carry with us this unresolved stress or unresolved stuff, and it eventually comes out. Your body expels it for you at inconvenient times, to your partner, to your kid, to the worker that really didn't deserve it, because what you're stressed about happened yesterday or last night, or you decided to check your emails as soon as you opened your eyes, and now you're pissed off about something, right? But I think one of the things that really makes me wonder is I've adopted over the last couple of years this idea that time is a currency. And I think of it like, I don't know, it's not so much about accumulating stuff anymore for me. It's I become very acutely aware of just the passage of time. I don't mind being the age I am. I mean, I getting into my 40s, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I'm getting old and my life is passing me by. I'm not really bothered. What I get a bit concerned and even obsessed with is how quickly I got here. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, I still feel like I'm 21 on a cruise ship, sailing around the Caribbean, and now like here I am, and I'm 43, and I'm like, I see your faces, I know, I look good, get over it. But
I've heard that one before
I know.
from him.
But the thing is time is a currency. So in every aspect, if your bank account had time instead of money, with how it is now, you're aware of what you spend your money on. You're aware when people steal it from you. We'll just replace money with time. And that really changes my perspective on what I spend time doing. We even use it in the words. We spend time, we pay attention like it's money. So if you really treated it that way, you probably wouldn't put up with people wasting it or stealing it or, whatever. And in my concept here, it's not an unusual story. The first 8-9 months of building my business, I was a workaholic because my background, I was used to doing that. Like when you're on the cruise ships, it's the kind of environment where there's no such thing as work and personal. It's not a job or a role. It's a lifestyle because you live on the ship. You're literally at work all the time. So if something happened at 3 a.m, there I was up on the bridge making an announcement telling the people why there's a Coast Guard helicopter or why we're delayed or whatever's happening. It's going on. And when I came back to land, I applied that same approach to land-based jobs, which, it's a recipe for burnout. It doesn't allow for anything else. I left cruise ships with one of the ideas that there literally was no space in my world for a partner or a family. And I watched other people on the cruise ships try to do that, and it rarely went well. So I got off the ships and I got in this space where it's like, okay, so time, what am I using it for? What am I spending it on? And my first 9 months of building the business, I sacrificed everything at the expense of building this business. My relationship with my partner, my wife, she was my wife at that point. Seeing my newborn baby is more recent, but at the expense of my health and my relationships, I built my business. And I learned real fast, like many people do, does it have to be one or the other? So now there's certain times of my day or my week that are sacred. My weekends and my nights, I guard very carefully. It doesn't mean that there's never a time where I work in the evening or do something on the weekend if I have to, but the work-life balance, it's a unicorn unless you manifest that unicorn. It only exists if you make it exist, you know, because the truth of the matter is when something feels important, it's a procrastination or these behaviors we engage in, they're a function of a poor ability to prioritize. You know, they're like ugly stepsisters to each other, you know, prioritization and procrastination. If you really identify what your real priorities are in your life, the hierarchy of what's really important, you know, everybody's got that, but I don't think most people realize that what you've currently got is screwed up. And it's you can tell me all day long, your family comes first and your kid comes first, but when you work 80 hours a week, clearly they don't. And I'm not trying to belittle people that have to work that much. I'm just saying from a perspective of your actions determine what you really believe in and what you really care about, you know, you need to pay attention to that. So you can say what all these things on one side, but what you do is what's really going to reveal where your priorities are. So if you don't like your current situation, you need to reevaluate those priorities. Literally, your ability to prioritize brutally allows you to avoid procrastination. Because everything that you've got to do, I'm sure they're all really, really important. But I bet they're not all equally important in the moment. It's Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock. I'm going to work from home today. I got 27 projects. Are they all equally important? Probably not, you know. But our inability to focus and prioritize and eliminate certain things in that moment gets us to a state of overwhelm, which leads us to a state of stress.
Netflix.
Yeah. And then your body says, guess what?
Squirrel.
Now you feel like watching Star Trek. And you go and you procrastinate. So, I mean, your brain's giving you a gift, because if not procrastination, you'd probably have a panic attack or something, or you know,
Cry.
shut down, or you know what I mean? But our cultures from America to here, it's that stigma that we're, you know, we don't really ask why enough. We just, you know, the only answer is graft, head down, and do your work, and the universe will give you what you deserve. Maybe, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not the guru. I just know that from my experience, since considering time as my currency, that it's really the only thing I have to spend or give, what I do in that time, I literally grant myself appointments with myself. You know, this is the hour I set aside to do my admin or my evening for my kid. What we do in that time period, that can always change, of course. But if that time slot doesn't exist in my mental calendar or my real calendar, something else will suck it up. Something else will take that time, like, I don't know, Facebook or, you know, some job that doesn't need to happen right now. You know what I mean? So it's that concept of just taking control rather than feeling like you're a hostage of your time or of time going by or things like that. I hope it's making sense.
No, it totally does.
You know.
I'm going to change the subject a little bit now.
Yeah.
So if you had the gift of being able to speak to maybe 18-year-old Josh, what advice would you give him?
Wow. Such a great question. 18-year-old Josh. Well, what was 18-year-old Josh doing? He was discovering beer.
That's a bit young.
Yeah, he was a freshman in university, discovering beer.
It's just so crazy that you can't drink legally.
You can. I mean, people start drinking younger. And, you're not legal until 21.
I know, it's bonkers.
But even I was a bit late, starting at 18. But I discovered it. I was in university. I was having a blast. I did too much. I think in the States.
Too much beer?
Probably, yeah. But I mean, I didn't stop to smell any of the roses, so to speak. I got involved with every club I could, every organization. I joined a fraternity. I did the school musicals. I joined, I was a music major at the time, playing the trumpet, studying music education to be a music teacher. And I was in all these different ensembles. And, it was just, I did so much stuff that I think I missed out on some of the real benefits of university in the States, which is like social acclimatizing, and not just partying, but you learn how to live and work with people that you wouldn't otherwise. It's not just academic over there. And I think I just did a lot of stuff and I could have done less. I was driven by this thing of just, I was interested in everything. Like my head turned at every, I want to do that. You ever see that?
Yep.
I think I mentioned this. It's that Pixar movie Up. With the old guy in the balloons.
Yes.
And later in the movie, there's that scene where there's the dogs with the collars. And when the dog barks, the collar translates what the dog is saying. And, the dog is like, hello, sir. You see that red ball there? Please throw the ball. That ball right there. Yeah, please throw it. I really like to throw it. Squirrel! Squirrel! And we just get our attention distracted, right? And we think, that's what I want. And I think when I was 18, I was trying to do too much. By the time that I graduated 4 or 5 years later, and I got my first job on cruise ships, and I sat there on the ship and they told me my job and what was supposed to happen, gave me my schedule. I literally remember saying to the guy, the boss, wait, so that's all? That's all I got to do? Just this job, just that stuff? I was used to, going to classes all day and then going to my one of my 3 part-time jobs, then going to rehearsal, then skipping the rehearsal to go to work, and then coming back later, and then going to the fraternity meeting, and then, trying to meet girls and, everything all at once. And I found myself graduating really angry because I never really focused in on anything. And I was graduating, and I was one of those people that wasn't afraid of hard work, but I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. I was envious of the other kids that appeared to know what they wanted. If I had just known what I wanted to do, just put my head down until I got it. But there I was graduating, like 85 grand in debt, going, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I'm so pissed off that I don't know, because it's like, what do I do next, And that's, my friends and I took a cruise as a graduation present to ourselves, and that's when I met the cruise director, and that's where a whole chapter changed for me. I, walked up one day to the cruise director and said, how do you do this job? What do you do? And 3 weeks later, I was back on that same ship working, as opposed to, I was on the cruise, that's not true, sorry, a month and a half later. But if I hadn't just reached out and talked to the person and thought, what do you do? How do you get into this? I didn't even know jobs like this existed, and that just led to that particular job of an activities host led to cruise director, which was senior management, and you're in charge of most things on the ship. And
in charge of the fun.
Yeah, exactly. As a cruise director, you're in charge of the entertainment and also all the promotions. So I got to learn about management and leadership. I got my fix of being on stage every night and being around entertainers. Plus, I learned a lot about driving revenue and promotions and marketing. And it was a really multifaceted role. Very difficult to translate that job back to land. So a lot of people struggle with that, and that's why today I've got these, I don't know if they're completely unique, but these different skill sets where here I am, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, a bit of a consultant, I have all these skills, but I also do a lot of Compere work still because I love being up on stage, and I do awards shows and work with charities and all kinds of interesting stuff.
So what's the most interesting bit of comparing you've done recently, Josh?
Wow. Interesting. Okay. I've got some really great clients and friends now that I do Compere work for, and it's a lot of fun. But the most interesting one most recently was I hosted a pole dancing showcase. Not in a club or anything like that, but pole dancing now is also a big fitness craze, right? So this particular studio had a showcase, and they had all their people that attended the classes had been working on their performances and wanted to show them off. And so there was a big audience of all the family and friends, and it was hosted in a casino. And we went there, and I was the compere, and I got to go and have fun with everybody. It was just great. And even, my wife came along to see the show as well because my sister-in-law, her sister was in it. So that was an interesting moment, trying to compare and have fun. And then, looking at her sister and my sister-in-law, then glancing at my wife, and looking back at my sister-in-law and glancing at my wife. And, I'm like, this is okay? This is all right? Okay, I'm looking. Not looking? I'm looking. Because it's not necessarily like, it's the traditional strip club kind of thing. It's fitness, but it's allowed to be. I find it a wonderful way that women get to decide to kind of grab their power, empowerment, getting up there. A similar one is I also host for the last couple of years for the benefit of a charity for Tyneside Women's Health was most recently, but the performance was a amateur burlesque troupe called the Kittens Collective, and wonderful women, wonderful girls. Some of them are more pro, and some of them are more amateur. But they get up there, they prepare performances, and I get to be a part of these organizations or these events that sometimes pay and sometimes don't. But I do it because it continues to allow me to meet wonderful people, support good causes, and get my own fix of getting on stage and making some folks giggle if I can. And sometimes I bomb, sometimes I'm terrible. I kind of compare by one rule: as long as I'm having fun, you're all welcome to join in. But if you don't, well, at least I'm having fun.
That's brilliant. Okay, so let's dial right back to what you're doing now. So what do you do? Tell us a little bit more about financial services.
So my company has two aspects. The first one is my name is, I am the brand, joshuariffe.com, and I am a coach and a trainer. So I have a series of products such as the topics include overcoming procrastination, time and stress management, a lot of personal development stuff, customer service training, more like American style. I find that people over here love the American version of customer service, even if they don't love Americans as much. So there's that. Also presentation skills. So a lot of training and coaching and mentoring. And what I found is after I got my coaching credentials, most people don't understand the difference between coaching and mentoring. And a lot of people, it's a bit of a buzzword. So it kind of, some of when I meet people is explaining what's coaching and what's not. A lot of people just throw coach onto their name and, I sell this product. I'm also a wellness coach, or I do this, or so it confuses the public. But anyway, the business is centered around me as the brand, and I generally do, I have a series of free seminars to introduce myself to people, and those seminars generally show people that I know what I'm talking about and sells me as the personality. I kind of liken it to, once somebody decides they need to actually pay a personal trainer to lose some weight, they know that, getting a gym membership isn't going to do it because they're probably not going to go. By that point, they've made a commitment. They're tired of how they feel or look or whatever. But when they do that, what they don't usually do is go to the gym and say, just give me whoever you got. Here's 500 pounds. You got to find somebody who gels with you, which is what I like about the coaching industry, is that I thought there would be lots of competition because there's hundreds and maybe thousands of coaches, but there isn't, because people aren't buying a goal setting program. They're not buying, theoretically they're buying the potential of what you can help them with as a coach, but they're buying you. Some people are very holistic. Some people are very, accountable coaches. Like, I'm going to crack my foot off in your butt. Rawr, here we go. Depends what the person needs from a coaching perspective.
Yes.
The difficult part for me was to realize coaching is not about me. It's difficult because coaching is a lot about shutting your mouth and listening. And for me, I just can't seem to stop talking. I have like verbal diarrhea sometimes. So, but anyway, that was the JoshuaRiffe.com side. From a business perspective, it works, and you can work and, survive and do well and build a good business. But the challenge is scaling. For a lot of trainers or coaches, how do you scale that business? How do you multiply yourself? How do you, I don't know, what do you do? Hire more coaches and then they teach the Joshua Riffe method of coaching? It's a bit of a difficult one, because like I said, I was a bit of a unintentional entrepreneur. I love coaching. I love watching those light bulb moments in people's eyes across the table. But I also would like to be on a beach in 5 years, never working again. Myself, you know what I mean? I'm not embarrassed to say that. So how do you scale a coaching business when you make money when you're actually working and delivering, right? So in the doing of that, I kind of came across a client that I had that wanted everything that I offered from my company, but didn't have the appetite to take any of their people really off the floor for too long to sit in a workshop. Because remember, the workshops are different. I mean, if I have a public workshop on goal setting and, procrastination, whatnot, and it's advertised publicly and people sign up and join the course or join the thing, they want to be there. And they come along and they get motivated, and hopefully they continue on after the workshop. They want to be there. But when you're working inside an organization and the boss sends 50 people and says, you've been voluntold to go to Josh's procrastination seminar, it's a bit of a different audience. When the overall goal is initiating change and driving behavioral change in an organization, how do you measure it? How do you do it? So I was a bit stuck, and I was a small micro business, just me. So I thought the idea of, what if we could use a platform instead? What if we could turn it on its head, and rather than delivering the content through workshops, what if we could use a platform, kind of like an e-learning site of some kind, and deliver the work, and then have me come in once a month or once every 6 weeks to kind of tie it all together for them, and then deliver the stuff that way, so I could, access more clients. Because plenty of people want training, but it just falls below the priorities of sales and compliance and these other things that are important to small businesses. Anyway, long story short, that took off. And now I design e-learning sites and intranet sites on the foundations of, like online courses, but these sites become central hubs for organizations to drive communication. The sites have metrics where I can show the CEOs how engaged their staff is, who's going on the site. It gets quite technical. I'm not a website developer. I'm not a coder, but I've learned quite a bit about it. But also the other side is developing sites for coaches and trainers and organizations who want to monetize what they've got. So you're a coach, you're working your butt off to get out there and do your thing, and you've got content. And one of the ways to drive additional revenue for yourself, or even just get your stuff out there, is to create some kind of an e-commerce site where your courses are available. This is not new. It's just a bit different in the sense of if you were a person and you went to some of these programs that are out there, you still have to populate the programs and design them and maintain them and all this other stuff. So the other side of my business, financial services, is doing that for people, is creating a site and then putting it full of their own content and then maintaining it for them, and then it goes on. And it's a great way to kind of scale. And it's taken it away from my stuff. And I get to learn more about what everybody else does with their business and how they connect with people. Because at the end of the day, whether it was Compere work or being on stage or trying to make people laugh or whatever, it's always been about connection for me. Standing on stage, it's always about trying to make every person in that audience or that room feel like I'm talking to just them. And when you can do that, people have moments. They get on their own journey. And you get to be a part of that as a coach if you do it right. So all that stuff. This is just kind of keeping up with the times. It's not so much about the tech. It's more about what do you want these platforms to accomplish, and let's have fun making one that works for your particular organization. So that's my answer for how to scale my business and keep it growing. And as a result, I get to cherry pick who I work with as a coach. Yes. I don't have to take everybody because there's another aspect to it, and that's the side of the business that can grow. So it's nerdy, but it's really fun. Like I really get in there, and when a client says, we wanted to do this, or I want to be able to accomplish that, I actually use coaching techniques in the design process to challenge what they think they want. Well, why do you want to have that button there? What's it supposed to do? Well, we want it to be able, well, what about this? Or how else do you think we could accomplish that? Does it need to be that? So there's actually techniques in the design process. And then you get to help other people make money at the end of the day and support their families,
That's lovely.
Make some sense?
Yeah, totally.
It does.
Totally. So if anybody listening wants to get in touch with you, how's the best way?
Smoke signals are good.
What should
only
they
for the
say?
local area.
There's always my website, joshuariffe.com. There's also, my business card, just phone number, my Facebook page, LinkedIn page. I'm on all the normal places to be found. If you Googled me, stuff from cruise ships would probably come up.
Yeah, I saw some. That's hilarious.
Back in the olden days. But yeah, it's just joshuariffe.com or, look me up, Joshua Riffe, on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn.
Excellent.
Great stuff. Well, thanks for coming in today, Josh. It's been really
it's my pleasure.
Great
Thanks
to chat
for
with you.
spending your time with us.
Yes.
It's my pleasure. I've never done a podcast before, and this is great. I didn't know what to expect. I am wondering, though, James, should you be wearing trousers? Because I don't understand. I thought that would be made clear throughout the process why that was the. But anyway, I thought maybe it's just me.
I'll have everybody confused now.
Had I known, I wouldn't have worn any either. I I missed that in the memo.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry. James is not wearing trousers.
I'm joking.
You didn't have to come dressed as a chicken either, Josh.
Well done, man.
That's
good stuff. I like that.
It's a good sport.
Thank you ever so much for coming in.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you, guys. This has been a fun chat.
Cheers, Josh.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.